Our record coldest high temperature today was 18 degrees, and we hit 16 today.
We often talk about weather records, but where do these records come from? Dale Enterprise is a small community outside of Harrisonburg, and it's rich in history. Bob Weaver talks about his great-grandfather, L.J. Heatwole. You might call him the original local weatherman.
Well, he started as a boy, 1868, he started writing diaries, weather diaries.
1868 in the Shenandoah Valley, the area still recovering from the Civil War. Harrisonburg isn't even a town yet. Heatwole, a teenager in Dale Enterprise, starts what is now 150 years worth of continuous weather records. These are Heatwole's original diaries, detailing the day's weather.
There were whirlwinds, high winds from the south.
Heatwole was fascinated by the weather.
And that just evolved into more and more interest, and then by 1884 he became a volunteer weather observer.
One of the most interesting entries we came across, April 9th, 1918.
Blizzard storm and earthquake.
Heatwole became part of an evolving group of volunteers across the country who were dedicated to observing and recording the weather. By using the telegraph, this information was compiled to make daily weather charts. Before computers, this is how forecasts were made. The National Weather Service says Dale Enterprise is the oldest cooperative network weather station in the state.
Having a continuous record like that is, for a long period of time, is a pretty rare thing.
Heatwole was a dedicated volunteer, devoting his time checking the high and low twice a day.
We had 100, 104, and 101.
And writing very detailed notes.
He said, great heat. Sultry, windy.
The whole family helped to keep up the weather station.
It was fun to actually just do the weather. Reset the thermometers, take the rain, see how much snow there was. That was sort of a hands-on, interesting process.
L.J. Heatwole passed the record keeping to his daughter, Elizabeth, and husband, Earl Grove, in the 1930s. After Elizabeth passed away, Earl's second wife, Grace, kept the station going. Then it was passed on to daughter Virginia and husband Richard Weaver, Bob's parents. After 3 generations, neighbor Scott Cook became part of the family history when Richard Weaver asked him to take over in 2008.
I was happy to oblige to keep the tradition going and the history of the station going.
A unique request to keep up with the daily record keeping.
It's the oldest weather station in Virginia and the 3rd overall in the U.S.
This is what an original weather station looks like. And in 1884, L.J. Heatwole started officially keeping weather records, which would eventually become a partnership with the National Weather Service. Back then, for well over 100 years, records were done manually and kept in books by hand. Now with technology, starting this year, the Dale Enterprise Weather Station is online and powered by solar, where the temperature is recorded each hour.
Anytime you get more observations with more regularity, that'll help us to make a more specific warning, more clear message.
Even with new equipment and information online, Cook still sends in daily reports.
That's the great thing about weather. It changes every day.
And 100 years ago today,
It was very warm, 72 degrees high, very warm with a thunder shower.
the record keeping continues.
The descriptions are fascinating, aren't they?